When Bennie does something, he doesn't go halfway.
He didn't do anything part way.
He was the team leader. He was the team captain.
KALL.
Call was what they call a full-service radio station. You really don't have that anymore.
Call radio was his life, and the people that worked there meant a lot to him.
He probably created the way radio was done, the business of radio was done here for many years.
Still to this day, the 5 years that I was director of marketing at Call Radio were the 5 most fun years of my life.
KALL, Salt Lake City, Ogden, and Provo.
When he was 19 years old, he was in the Air Force, and he was supposed to go to New York and study Russian at Columbia University. And his father died, and he received a discharge because he was an only child. That had a tremendous impact. He stayed in Kinston, North Carolina after that, where he was born. He worked in the radio business, and that's kind of, where he found himself. But I think it was really important.
This is Call 910 AM Stereo.
Well, he just didn't follow the rules. He knew there was a goal, and if the normal path that most people would take, if it wasn't going to get him where he wanted to go, he'd just make up his own rules. He'd just sort of set his own tone and do it the way he wanted to do it. And 9 times out of 10, he was pretty successful.
The consummate description of Bennie is the ultimate salesman. He always had deals going all the time, and he made them fun.
Bennie was an extraordinary business person. Bennie never met a trade he didn't like. He traded things for time on the radio station.
He was the king of trade, and it was hilarious because my sister and I always knew who my dad had the biggest trade account with on Christmas morning, depending on what our presents consisted of.
KALL-FM, Salt Lake, Ogden, Provo.
Will Lucas found out that you couldn't marry a man if you were a guy in this market, in this state, but you could marry an animal.
That was Call Radio under the Bennie Williams era.
Lucas just decided that since we wanted to have open marriages in Utah, he would just go out and marry a duck.
After the wedding ceremony, they let the duck swim in the pool. It was great.
KALL, Salt Lake City, Ogden, and Provo.
Homer K. Peterson, his boss, all of our bosses, was always on Bennie about his desk. His desk was a mess. His desk was stacked up to the ceiling with stuff. And he says, Homer, I've got it covered. Don't worry about it. I know where everything is.
He had a very messy office, but he had a very organized mind.
One Friday, Homer walked in and said, Bennie, either you clear up that desk or I'm going to set it on fire. We all heard about it, and of course on Monday we all walked in, and Bennie walked into his desk and he sat down. He was looking through some of his papers, picking things up and looking through them, and all of a sudden Homer walked in. He says, I told you to clean up that desk. It's not cleaned up. And he set it on fire.
At Call Radio, we've made arrangements to broadcast 3 hot games during the holidays.
Call Radio was the station of the Utes, still is, and has been for decades, 30, 40 years. University came to Call Radio, came to Bennie, and said, we got to do something because the Utes were not very good in those days. Tom said, I'm from the Bay Area, and over there they do a thing at Stanford and Cal and those kind of places. It's called tailgating. People here didn't tailgate in those days. Nobody did in this area.
Well, I told Bennie, I says, football is not a game. It's an all-day event. It starts early and goes late, so you have a party beforehand and you get together and people cook and drink and eat and have a great time.
Other colleges and universities all over the country do this tailgating thing, and here it was kind of an oddity. I mean, people getting together and barbecuing and actually drinking something before they went to a football game was a little strange.
Then Bennie created the pregame tailgate bash before the tailgate, and then of course the day of tailgating was just the best party in town.
With each $5 donation to the charity of your choice, we light another light on the Call Community Christmas tree in front of our studios.
There wasn't, conversely, a community project that if Bennie felt strong enough, didn't get Call Radio's full weight behind.
Bennie was one of those guys that he was always in a suit, always wore a tie, and was always doing something for some group or some organization, or of course for call radio.
For example, I used to do a basketball tournament called Hoop It Up. Bennie saw a team playing and they had a manager on the sideline, a guy who was kind of helping him out, teenager, these were teenage kids, and he was walking with a limp. Turned out he had spinal bifida. Bennie called me, got the name of the team, got some of the numbers of the guys on the team, contacted the team members, found out who the manager was, called the manager, met with the manager, and got the manager into Shriners Hospital to have surgery.
He was just there for people.
Bennie was almost larger than life. He was multifaceted, multidimensional. I mean, he was a salesman, but he was funny. He was a promoter, but he could be serious. I mean, there were all kinds of angles to Bennie, and it composed the man.
You know, I think his passion is the best lesson that he passed on to us. He had a lot of struggles with his health, especially later in his life. But I think he realized that it is so short. That you're a complete fool if you waste even a moment.
He took care of us. He was concerned about things. I mean, he would bring things and he would give us gifts. One Christmas, I wound up on my front door, some guy delivering a 12-foot oar. On the flat part of the oar was a plaque that he had made. Said, for Tom Barberry, just in case you're up a creek and you don't have a paddle, here's your paddle.
Bennie's single most timeless quality was that he enjoyed his work, he enjoyed his life, he enjoyed helping.
He taught us reality, he taught us non-reality, he taught us how to believe in ourselves and how to believe in what we were doing. He was a driving force behind that radio station for a long, long time.
Bennie was singularly the most respectful individual I ever knew.